Okay, so let's look at this paper. The first question was, describe what is shown by a production possibility curve. The answer says the combination of two goods which an economy or firm can produce with current resources and technology. The addition I think is needed here is the word maximum. So I think if we have the word maximum in there, then it's likely we'll get all the marks for that question. It's out of 2, so I think if it's going to be given 2, it'll be 2 benefit of the doubt. But just to guarantee the word maximum in front of combination, I think improves that answer. And also if it was a 3-mark answer, it would definitely need the word maximum in there. The next question is for 4 marks, and it states, using a production possibility curve, show how Saudi Arabia could expand its provision of education whilst cutting back on the resources it allocates to oil production. Now this again was a 4-mark question. We have got education on this axis going from A to B, but what's missing is this axis here and this axis here. So either E and E1 and O and O1, and then some arrows showing that change. So I think as it is, it's probably 3 out of 4, but those added labels are key for the accuracy. The next question states, using information from the case study, state and explain the 2 factors which have affected the supply of Saudi Arabian oil. So it's a question that's looking at supply, and in the case study we know that, or from that last graph, you know that supply of oil is going down. So one point we've got here is the need for greater revenue from oil in order to increase spending on education. This means original supply increase is needed. While the first point could kind of be justified, so the need for greater revenue might increase the additional supply, I think it would need this to talk about government policy or government objectives. So it's the objective of providing education while reallocating money away from oil. I think this second part is not something that is very clear from the mark scheme. What is clear is that they talk about taxes rising, and if taxes rise, then the effect is a fall in supply, and if supply falls, it's because the cost of production have risen. I think that's a better way to analyse the supply within that part of the answer. Okay, the next question says, using a diagram, show how the producer surplus of Saudi Arabia oil producers changes with an increase in the price. If it's a question on producer surplus, I would always just use supply. And you'll see the reason for this in a second. So the original part, which is highlighted here, which is on this graph here, is accurate in terms of the original producer surplus. But the gain in producer surplus is not a triangle, or it's not related to a triangle. So if it starts here and the price rises, really this whole red is the new producer surplus. So what you're actually gaining is this additional part here. So that would be the gain in producer surplus. And it's hard to see from that diagram there where the new producer surplus is. So the original is the blue on this graph, and the gain is the orange, but on this graph that's the wrong shape. So it does have an increase in price. It's a 4-mark question, so there's a 1 there. It does have the original, so there's a 1 there, but it's missing the highlighted new gain in producer surplus and a label to say that. So there'd be 1 mark for that and 1 mark for that as well. So currently 2 out of 4. Comment on whether Saudi Arabian oil producers increasing supply is likely to reduce world oil prices. So this was a comment question. and as a comment question we're looking for it to be two-sided. So we've got the reason why oil producers increasing supply would reduce the price. So the graph here, there we've got the increase in supply, there we've got the fall in price. It's a 6-mark question, so 3 marks are around this part. So an increase in oil supply would decrease the price in P2P1 due to the reduced scarcity in the market, which will cause consumer demand to increase and more people are willing to purchase. So all 3 marks for the first part are apparent there. In the second part we've got, but however, due to a decreased price, demand may increase from D to D1, which will cause the initial price fall to increase back to the original price, and the quantity will increase Q to Q to Q2 from Q1. So that wasn't drawn on the original graph, but you could add a graph in and show that subsequent increase in demand, and there would be the other 3 marks around that comment question, because it's given another point of view. The next question again is a supply and demand question, and this one says OPEC have forecast in 2009 that there will be a fall in world demand for oil. Using a demand and supply diagram, analyse the likely effects of this on the market for oil. So again, there is a fall in demand here. It's a 6-mark question. So we've got a fall in demand, there's 1 mark. There is 1 mark for the fall in quantity and the fall in price on the graph. A fall in demand for oil will cause the quantity to fall Q to Q1. So we've got 1 mark there for the reference, as less oil is being consumed, whilst the price will also fall P to P1, meaning a new equilibrium is formed. So nice and straightforward, 6 out of 6 for that question. The next question is the price elasticity of demand question. The first question says define the term price elasticity of demand. Responsiveness of quantity demanded, there's 1 mark. To a change in price, 2 marks. So both marks for the definition there, 2 out of 2. Could have went for the percentage of quantity demanded over percentage change in price as a formula, but that's fine as well. The next question is the evaluation question. Using the information in the case study, lines 19 to 24, comment on the price elasticity of demand for unleaded petrol from March 2007 to March 2008. In the case study, what it states is that there has been a 15% increase in daily sales, sorry, 15% increase in price and a 21% decrease in quantity demanded. So a negative here and the 15% here. So we have a negative 1.4 PED. We don't need the definition again in this question because we've already given the definition up here. So this part doesn't add to the marks, but this part does in terms of we've got a calculation. So we've got 2 marks for the calculation. Then we need to interpret it. So the figure is elastic, meaning demand is responsive to a change in price. So again, accuracy here, just be careful that we get the right interpretation there, so we don't pick up a mark there. In order to take advantage of this, the government could decrease taxes and firms could decrease prices in order to increase the quantity of petrol demanded. This will in turn increase the revenue. So we've got a suggestion there to maximise the revenue because it says comment on the price elasticity of demand. So we've already looked at the government being involved in this and wanting to maximise revenues, as long as the costs do not increase above the gain in revenue. So we've got a little bit of EOS for there as well in relation to this. It may be good to look at that from an A2 point of view and just mention economies of scale. So we can assume that if they're increasing, or what it depends upon is increasing and gaining economies of scale in terms of the output. This will also allow increased employment for the firms and increased productive capacity. That isn't relevant within this answer, so we don't need this part, just like we've already mentioned the definition above. It depends upon the accuracy of the figures used, as these are only estimates. So again, it's a good EO4 point to look at. Mean elasticity demand could actually be inelastic due to a change in price, where an increase in price would be beneficial. So we've got an application of that evaluation as well. It's an 8-mark question. I think a little bit more around the costs here, or the accuracy up here, would get all 8 marks, as it is probably 7 out of 8 for that.